Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. On this episode, Yana Saranchuk. And don't be disappointed, folks, or too disappointed, because we just found out that no, she doesn't have cousins in the NHL, even though she has the most awesome Russian NHL name. I mean, I'm visualizing it, unfortunately, with the Detroit Red Wings for some reason. But I'm seeing that name on the back of a Detroit Red Wings jersey in the future. Yana, hey, great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me on. And I guess, like I said, I might have to make a little army and put them in the NHL so I can make these dreams a reality.
That's right. That's right. We're marking the date here, and we'll just watch the clock and be ready here. And
I have over.
We can't talk too much. We can't talk too much. It's not like there's many McGregors out there playing professional rugby, and that's a heck of a rugby name right there.
Well, I mean, out of my 300 cousins, at least one should be in the NHL, right?
I know.
Just a numbers game at that point.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, hey, it's great to have you. And in all seriousness, I love the one of the things that excites me about talking to you, Yana, today is all the things that you got going on. And I didn't try to list them out because I think that would take me about 15 minutes of all the exciting stuff, from brand new farmer to a fitness expert to coach to investor to, and I'm sure there's some other very broad that I could touch on there. Which one, and don't pull punches and don't worry about hurting somebody's feelings, but which one excites you the most right now?
Honestly, the one that's going to be causing the most amount of impact in people's lives. And that's my my new startup coaching business that I launched last month. That's already made a difference in a few people's lives. And that's the one I'm honestly most excited about.
That's cool. Getting to help people, right? Making a difference in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about it. What is it about it that excites you so much?
So what excites me is I'm personally a Christian, and I love to help other Christians kind of develop their faith in God more, build a better foundation, but also to gain some wealth themselves. Because as we all know, in order to make any kind of changes to the world, we need the resources. So if you don't have the resources, you can't make the necessary changes. So I just really love to help entrepreneurs and consultants to be able to have a strong, deep foundation with God, but also to be able to support themselves and their families, not living on the grind, as a lot of people like to say, and struggle, because we're not here to struggle, but to really thrive and have an abundance mindset in life.
That's great.
I'm laughing myself over here because I don't know if I've ever brought it up on the podcast, Dad, but it's one of my favorite little fun facts. So y'all heard the term like Protestant work ethic, right? Yeah. For Protestants versus Catholics. Do y'all know it's like statistically true that it goes back to like the splitting of the church with like Martin Luther, that the places that adopted to become Protestant, basically, and it goes back to a little bit of psychology. It's why it's one of my favorite fun facts, is the Catholics are preaching predestination. So it's like, you don't really have any control over your life. And then Martin Luther and the Protestants were all preaching like, hey, go grow your life, build wealth and, spread it, give back. And like, that's the way to heaven. And so you wind up with this like cultural shift in these different countries in Europe, and you can actually tease it out. And it's like a true thing that like holds true. I think like even still countries that were Protestant back then, I think are still wealthier today. But I think it's interesting. I just had to add that because it's such an interesting mindset thing of just like using that as your mindset inside of your business and inside of your life in order to take control of your life and, have an impact, like you're saying, Yana.
No, that's pretty amazing. Honestly, I was born in a communist country. I was born in the USSR. We were honestly bred not to believe in ourselves. We were bred to have a lack mindset. And it's unfortunately, it's translated into a lot of the Slavic culture that you see today. Some of them think that you really do have to suffer and have this like terrible life or else you're not being godly. And I'm like, let's shatter these beliefs, because that's 100% not true.
And that's great. I love that. And what I was going to say earlier too, and by the way, Kim, cool fun fact there. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah. Is the fact of, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. I tell that with my clients all the time. You know, if you're giving of yourself all the time, you're just gonna, you're eventually going to hit tracer burnout, to use our old Army term, because if you're not healthy, if you don't have something to sustain you, to roof over your house, over your head, and food on the table to sustain you and your family, how can you have possibly time to give to others in that respect? So I love
You
that.
can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah. Oh man, we are just dropping. I feel left out, man. It's usually, man, I'm off my game tonight. I've already been beat twice with some good ones today. Look at that. Look at that. Yeah,
We're 6 minutes
two
in.
young bucks here.
Let's go.
man. And I'm standing. I think I might have to pull the chair back over here because I'm feeling left behind. Goodness. That
We
is
won't
so,
let you get left behind. Don't worry.
all right, pull me back.
No man left behind.
There we go. There we go. So tell that, and I'll jump back to the you grew up in that culture of lacking, and you had to live in this, dire strait. How did you do that mind switch? When did that happen?
There was this big shift that happened several years ago. I kind of started diving deeper into personal development, finding out what that was all about. And through a mentor named Darren Hardy, I don't know if you've heard of him, but a great success mentor for entrepreneurs. Through him and through reading his book, The Compound Effect, I started to kind of realize that, hey, it's honestly the small little things that you do day in, day out, that are easy to do, which are also easy not to do. That is how you build something, anything, whether it's a habit, whether it's wealth, health, whatever it is. And I was like, well, wait a minute. How do we have people who are so successful and others are just not? What's the differentiation between them two? And I had come to find out that it was all mindset. People who had money and wealth and resources thought differently than the ones that didn't. So I started to kind of dig and find out, well, how did they think differently? How did they act differently? And that's when it started to dawn on me that, hey, a lot of these people are Christian. And just because they are Christian doesn't make them better or worse or have less wealth or more wealth. It's all still about the mindset, how they think, what they say, because everything that you think becomes your words, become your actions. And that in itself is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you keep saying the words, I don't have this, I'm poor, I can't afford it, it literally becomes your reality. So you are essentially co-creating with your creator. And that was the thing that I realized. I was like, wow, I'm saying a lot of negative things. And maybe that's why I'm not very successful or have the means to do what I need to do. So once I shifted what I was thinking and what I was saying is when everything just kind of started to unfold. And I mean, it still blows me away today. I would start saying, I get checks in the mail, and I do. I get checks in the mail from random places, like without even expecting it. They're just showing up in my mailbox.
That's awesome, because it reminds me of one of my favorite things is you find what you look for, right? The
100%.
old I call it the red truck syndrome, right? I never saw a red F-150 until I decided I wanted to buy a red F-150. And then guess what? Every time I turned the next corner, there's another one. There's another one. Our caveman mind looks for what we need. And if we believe we don't need things, then guess what? If we believe that we don't have, we don't deserve it, don't need it, don't want it, or whatever labels we put on it, guess what your mind does? Shuts it down, and you don't get it.
Exactly. And it's not that there's more of these red trucks in the world. It's just your mind paying attention.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That makes me think, in the same vein there, Dad, of, understanding control. What immediately came to mind when you were talking, Yana, is my wife's family from Mexico. They have, and I'm not going to say it in Spanish because I don't think I would get it right, but they have a phrase that's essentially, it's like God willing. And it's different than that, but it's basically God willing. And I've seen my wife and her cousins get on their parents sometimes with things because they'll be like, oh, well, God willing. It's like, no, you can do this. Like, this isn't a God thing. This one's a you thing. And it's like just having that mindset where you're separating yourself from it rather than recognizing that it is inside your control. Dad, we talked before the internal locus of control. If you think the world's inside your control, then it kind of going to be inside your control, at least a little bit. And so it's better to move forward that kind of a mindset rather than, oh, God willing, because, for a lot of things, it's so far inside your control. If you just try to separate yourself from it, what happens is a similar phrase. It's not going to happen. And the odds are going to be against you on that.
It's almost as if you're shifting your responsibility onto God, saying, well, God will take care of it. And the Russian culture is the same way. Like you said, the God willing thing. It also works very similarly how it does in the Spanish culture. And I love what you said. I'm sorry, but this one's not a God thing. This one's on you. You got to take the responsibility to make things happen. Good things are not just going to fall out of the sky into your lap. You got to work for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The longer you wait for something to fall out of the sky, I mean, it ain't going to come. And it's going to be harder for you to get started the longer you wait.
Exactly.
And in the Arabic culture, and where I did some work, there was inshallah. That was okay, you go inshallah over there on that curb and see if that water tank gets filled up. God, wow. Trying not to go, but you know what? Screw it. It just reminds me of the poem where you're talking about God, how come you're not helping me? Looking back at the footprints in the sand, I think is kind of the way it goes. How come you're not helping me? You walk by me, and then all of a sudden there was only one. I'm all by myself, and then the God speaking to the person was, well, it's because I picked you up and carried you. Sort of sense, and it's that action of doing something. Because how do you know? And I've had this discussion with one of my men's groups. How do you know that what you're doing right now isn't what God is willing you to do?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Now, in a counter to that, sitting on the curb waiting for the water tank to get full, maybe the inshallah is you getting up and doing it.
There you go. And
God is willing you to get up and do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was gonna say it's funny because the part of Russia where I was born actually became Kyrgyzstan, which is the Middle East. So I am very familiar with what you're saying. And again, that's been bred into the Russian culture, into the Slavic culture, all of that. And another analogy came to mind when you said that. It's like when a person is sitting there almost about to drown and he's like, God, please help me, please help me. And the boat comes by and he's like, come on, jump in. And he doesn't jump in. No, God will help me. And then a helicopter flies by, jump in. No, God will help me. God, why won't you help me? Well, I sent you a boat. I sent you a helicopter. You didn't do the action. You just sat there. So inspired action. You got to act upon what the Holy Spirit is telling you to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I wish I could remember for certain, but my nephew is from Kyrgyzstan.
Oh my gosh, that's
pretty
so
sure
crazy.
My sister and her husband adopted him. He's 16, 17 years ago.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Is that right, Keith?
I thought it was Kazakhstan. But I feel like a bad cousin. You're feeling like a bad uncle. We don't need to go down this path.
It was a long time ago.
Well, I have family members from both. My dad's actually from Kazakhstan. My mom was born in Kyrgyzstan. I was born in Kyrgyzstan. But it was all USSR back there. It was all one big fat chunk. So it's okay. You wouldn't be wrong.
Yep. I'm sure that my sister will give me a call when she hears this show. Correct me if I'm wrong, or go, oh, you mentioned Bobby. Yeah. I get one or two out of it. So that's cool. How about that for a small world connection, right?
Yeah.
So leadership, you did this mindset change. And, one of the things that I learned from my Cold War days, was the whole leadership structure and not thinking for yourself and in the Soviet military. that had to put a little bit of a damper in mindset also in the, you'll just do what you're told. So how did you become an entrepreneur? Because you've broke the mold, really. I mean, quite frankly, looking back from the culture that you were born into to where you're at now is like, yeah, I've got some history there, but that ain't me no more. So how did that happen?
So to be very honest, I have to give all the credit to my parents. Coming here, not speaking English, coming here with barely anything in their pocket.
Mhm.
They had to really try and survive. So my mom and my dad both became entrepreneurs. To be honest, I hardly saw my dad because he was working so hard to support the family. So I spent a lot of time with my mom, who, if she wanted to buy anything, especially like the MLM marketing, she would buy the thing, but then work to be able to pay it off and then be able to provide for the family. So I saw the ethics there already. And I'm like, corporate world is not for me. Not what I want to do. I don't want anybody telling me what to do because, I came from that. We came from that. People always told us what to do and what we can't do. Standing in bread lines, I remember that. He would stand in bread lines for all day long, only to get up to the counter and they tell you, I'm sorry, there's no more bread. You can't, come back tomorrow, please. So, yeah, so being told what to do was a big factor in us not wanting to work for the man, have a boss, but be that good person to the person that you're employing. Just being a decent and kind human being and making sure that the working conditions that you're providing, not only for yourself but for others, are where people want to be. Creating a good culture, and it's all part of leadership, taking that initiative and responsibility for the lives of others.
We've taken a lot of time on the show before talking about like visualization. And I think in general, it's kind of a forward looking thing. But for a lot of entrepreneurs we talk with, there is that, the looking back to something negative. I think you mentioned the bread lines. I'm sure that's something where it's like looking back, it's like you have that vivid image where it's like, I'm never going back there. I think I'm trying to think of who the big comedian was or big actor. Blanking on it, but he just always had this work ethic because it's like, I'm not going back to the ghetto where I grew up. Like, I'm never going back there. So it's just always working. I wanted to shift it a little bit. As you look forward, what does that vision look like for you, Yana? Because we kind of got the carrot, or sorry, the stick on one end of not going back there. But what's the thing that drives you forward more so than that?
Just to be able to help others change their mindset, to be able to be, thriving, abundant, happy, but also not to go out into the world, be of the world, but not in the world. And I'm finding a lot of, especially like young people, are kind of losing themselves. They're chasing money, chasing dreams, but they're kind of forgetting God. And I'm like, well, my passion is truly, yeah, don't go back to the breadline, but also make something for yourself while also serving God and being a servant. So my dream and passion is to truly help others, especially women, to be able to provide for themselves, provide for their families, not have a family to where, like, I didn't see my dad, but to be able to spend time with their fathers, spend time with their mothers, have time to spend with their children. That's very important for me because family, right under God, is number one. It's one of my very big core values. Everything I do is for my family. So I want people's families to be good, to thrive, to be able to, have that abundance and not just provide what the children need, but also to provide what the children want. So helping parents do that and helping other Christian entrepreneurs, I mean, that's the passion right there.
Oh, that's beautiful too. And when you have that kind of a why, man, it just helps pull you. And I'm going to throw this at you because we've talked about it a couple of times in a couple of webinars that Camden and I have done. It's more than just the why; it's the who. So when
Yes.
you think about that, who is pulling you along or helping enable that why with you? Who's your who, if you will?
Yeah, my who is it's my family. It's
Yeah.
honestly my family. Seeing where we came from, what we had to endure and struggle through, and just thinking right now, I'm like, I want to have all the resources in the world to just go out and buy my parents a house and just have them retire. my dad works really, really hard. And I'm like, he's my who. You know, my mom's my who. My younger siblings are my who. I want them to be successful. I want them to be set up great, not to where they're grinding day in and day out, you know, not having time to spend with their families. I want them to be successful. And that is another big factor to why I want to help others. Because if we're all as a community, all of us are thriving, that's going to make us healthy, all of us in the mind. Instead of perpetuating this whole, you know, lack mindset, I want to switch it to abundance. Because nobody should have to think, you know, that I'm never enough or I'll never have enough or this is going to run out. It's not. Trust God, do your inspired action, how the Holy Spirit moves you, and you're going to have more than enough.
You mentioned, not just giving your kids and your family what they need, but also what they want. That immediately made me think of a quote I heard just the other day. I think it comes from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, odd enough. But I think it's one of the parents on that, if I remember right. But we were so focused on giving our kids what we didn't have that we forgot to give them what we did have. And they're talking about like character and work ethic and that kind of stuff. So being a little forward looking, maybe a little bit hypothetical here, how do you give your family what they want, but then still give them those things that they need, like work ethic? How do you balance those two? And Dad, you can jump in on this one too.
Well, if you don't mind for me to take it away.
Please, please.
In a way, I can actually relate to what was said, because my parents were focused on giving us the things that they never had, to where they kind of skipped out on that time that we needed, is the time with them, like the time with my dad. That right there is where I realized there has to be that balance. You still have to spend time with your children to give them the good morals, the good ethics, give them those life lessons that they need. So there always has to be a balance, like you said. And how does that balance come? Is by being conscious of what you're doing, being conscious of who do you want your children to become in the future, and what actions do you take based on who you want them to become. If you want them to become good people, you've got to spend time with them. You've got to teach them the lessons that you've learned, and still instill in them the good ethics, the good morals. You know, having those conversations with your kids that might be tough, that a lot of parents like to just kind of skip over and let the world teach them. It's so important to have those conversations, which, you know, like I said, my parents were working so hard. They never had those conversations. I had to learn in the school of hard knocks. So I'm like, okay, I see what I missed out on and what I should be giving to my children.
That's
Dad, what do you think?
well, I mean, Yana, you hit it on the head there. And it's I was gone a lot too, just in the nature of the things that I was doing at that time when the kids were growing up. And, you know, when you have that time, it's what do you do with it, right? Because you can never get it back. And how do you set the example? And it's your actions, it's your words, it's your doing, and just, to kind of jump on your story a little bit, your dad working that hard has shown you work ethic and how much you can do and carry that through. And that's part of it. But it is being able to teach and not have others teach. It's the foundation that's set in the household that is so critical from the parents, the adults in the room, if you will, that have to act like responsible human beings and do the right thing. Show the love, show the care, show the character, show the benefits of what you get by being a good person and how to be a good person. So that's, looking back on it, yeah, there was a lot. Miss Suzanne always talks about, it's faded a little bit, but it's probably because in time, but almost every one of her stories about the kids always started with the phrase, and Otis was gone. So, that was the life we were in and what we chose. So we tried to, as best we could, when I was there, spend those times. And then when I left the Army, Camden got to experience having me around probably almost too much, I think, at times, because he played rugby for me, and that was a lot of extra dad/coach time. I mean, I can remember one of my favorite things was sitting at
making me run laps because you didn't want people to think I was a favorite.
Well, yeah, toughen you up. But it was the dinner table question, about something about rugby, and I'd have to ask him, well, do you want the dad answer or do you want the coach answer? Because those were two very different answers. The dad answer was, oh, I'm very proud of you, son. You worked really hard. The coach answer was, you screwed that up. You need to work on this, and this, and make that better next time.
And Cam, which one did you like better? Just be honest.
I mean, this is one of those, it depends on the situation. I think, I think generally if you're talking dinner table, I'd rather have dad there than Coach Otis. Because if we're at the dinner table and I'm asking a rugby question, that means I just had 3 hours of Coach Otis before that, as we drove to practice and practiced for 2 hours and then drove back. So I think I tend to lean towards the dad there, but Coach Otis gave me all of the Otisisms that I use in everyday life and all of the metaphors and analogies and whatnot, which I got to tell you, and sorry, we're going totally off topic here. And, but I had a coaching call last week with a guy I played rugby with, Dad Liam, and he dropped an Otisism and couldn't think of where it came from. And I was like, he said that. And he's like, no, he's like, no shit. I was like, no, look it up. And we Googled it, couldn't find it anywhere. We're like, wow, that was an Otisism. Like, he had no idea. It was something that just drilled in the back of his mind. He had no idea where it came from.
That's another thing that just makes you realize how much impact coaches have over the lives of children, over the clients that they have, people that they coach. It's like, look at that. Years later, it's still there, still drilled in. And just like you said, at the dinner table, yeah, you want your dad there. But a lot of the things that you learned is the person who was teaching you, whether that was your dad or your coach or your teacher, whoever that was, that still played a humongous role on the development of you as a person and your character.
It makes me think of in Grit, the book, Angela Duckworth talks some about like parenting for grit and how it's like people tend to think that there's this approach where it's like you have to be super demanding and super strict. And then because of that, I think people tend to naturally think that you can't have like the caring aspect. But she talks about a bunch where it's like all of the like grittiest people that she interviews in that book are people whose parents pushed them like crazy. Like, you're going to go to the Olympics, little boy, when he's 5 years old, like that level pushing. But then there was always this level of love and caring and understanding where it was like, these are the goals. I'm still going to love you if you don't get there, but the goals are all the way up here and I'm going to keep pushing you to get there. And I think that's kind of the reason it made me think of that is it's a little bit of that balance of like the coach versus the dad. And it's like being able to have, like the loving aspect of it. But then it's like, when it comes down to it, you need to know, the kid needs to know where the expectations are so that they can understand how to, drive through and have that grit for life. So just interesting balance there.
And I'll just throw in, just because of the time we're recording it, Chloe Kim just won the gold medal. Well, today that we're recording it, but in China, which is last night.
Yesterday / tomorrow, because time zones are weird.
Whatever that time
in the future, remember that.
Yeah. But anyway, they showed a little video of her when she was like 3 or 4 doing her first race. Dad's filming it with probably a handheld camera at the time, and you could hear him challenging her and encouraging her at the same time. You can do this. You can hit this. I'm so proud of you. Hearing him yell that as she's this little bitty thing, her snowboard looks like it's twice as long as she is tall. Just going down this just what the picture that you've got in your mind right now of a little kid on a snowboard in a race with the bib and all that. Yeah, that was that video. And then that young lady winning a gold medal. you know, at the Olympics, or second one, if I remember right too, which
Wow.
is, how about that, you know, and talk about the parenting and the coaching and all those things, man. Yeah, that's there's a lot going on there. And I just, the other thing, since I'm referencing our time, when we're recording this, Valentine's Day, which just reminds me of the big L word, love. And if you have all that love for somebody, man, you can do it. And if they feel it, they can do it too. So, woo, man, I'm
I
getting
love
all
that.
sentimental and touchy feely. Oh,
We're
that
gonna
time
get
of
more,
year.
Dad, because I'm gonna take its big picture on this. So we're
oh,
talking about mindset change individually. We're talking about parenting a mindset change. So going a little bit bigger on it. All right, well, we're gonna go full big, save the world. How do we fix people's mindsets? How do we get people to change mindsets? What is the best approach? How do you help people around you, your community, the world, whatever level y'all want to take it? I had that in my notes from earlier and we've just been on it. So I want to go there. Big picture, how do we spread the mindset and like spread that positivity? And Yana, I'll throw it over to you first.
All right. So for me personally, I think it's, first of all, leading by example.
Mhm.
That is the only way that you'll be able to get people to actually want to change. It has to be their idea. So if you're leading by example and you're being that awesome, great person, it's gonna probably encourage them to want to do the same. But also then awareness. People have to have an awareness to their behavior, to their um the thing that drives them. Because if you don't know, then you're never gonna know.
Mm.
So the awareness is key to find out, okay, hey, there's a differentiation between my mindset and this person's mindset. So, example, awareness, and then just being consistent in everything that you do, whether it is leading by example, whether it is changing your habit. But the only way that as a community people are going to change is to see the others change around them and to be aware that, hey, well, my actions are a little different. So, how do we become more like this person?
that's great. And I look at it, you know, my favorite thing is, you know, to smile at that person in the aisle at the Walmart, you know, just a little grin and a little head nod, how you doing, or just something like that, because you never know what difference, what's the, you know, the old butterfly effect sort of metaphor theory of how do I, that smile could be that one thing that makes a difference in that person's day. Or this is the other way I like to think of it, in the ripple effect. I smile at that person and I can guarantee almost to 100% certainty that the next person that they pass, they're going to smile at them, whether they smiled back at me or not. It's kind of the two finger wave thing too, right? You're driving down the country road and somebody waves at you and you're like, oh, you know,
Wave
I had my
back,
coffee
please.
cup in my hand and I didn't get up. So guess what you do? You wave at the very next car that's coming the other way. 100%
Yeah.
happens. I mean, for me, it's, you know, ingrained into my Texas blood that's what I do. But you know what? It's that ripple effect. And that's, you know, like you said, Yana, you lead by example, but the little things that we do around people, even if it's just that, the howdy, the smile, the head nod, the finger wave, whatever it is, man, you never know what kind of a difference that's going to make in somebody's life and how that's going to change the world. I truly believe you do those sort of things. If every one of us does that every day, that will change the world. So it's not complicated. I mean, think about it. How much nicer would it be every time you got on the highway, somebody waved at you?
Now, have you guys been to Florida often? Because everybody waves at everybody here. It's like a different kind of South.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I've had some experiences in Florida that may prove that it's a different kind of South in the negative side. Let's just say a long time ago. But you know, it is nice to be in that kind of culture, ain't it? I mean, you step out of the metropolitan area of Dallas Fort Worth, just a few miles in any direction, and you're getting that same sort of feeling.
I love it.
Where my sister lives up there in St. Joe, which they couldn't afford to keep the traffic light on. They had to turn it off. That's how small a town it is. Yeah. And everybody up there is, how you doing? How you doing? Isn't it? So why when I'm around more people, here's our philosophical thought.
I got it.
When I'm around more people, I want to wave less, talk less, share less, smile less. Why is that? New York City.
So I heard this actually from somebody who lives in New York that grew up in Texas, and he said it really, really wisely. Kindness is a factor of population density, and that when you're in a super dense population, I think and whether people realize it or not, and it's probably, this is 100 years of worth of effect, probably talking about social effects, but you can't wave at everybody when you're in New York and you see 50 people on one block. That's a lot of work. That's a lot of work right there. You drive down the country road, you see, 3 neighbors on the farms down the road, wave, drive, wave, drive, wave. Not quite as hard. And so I think it's a little bit of that, just tendency to do the easier thing. You're around that many people, I think it tends to die. But to the point there, I'm using waving as an example because I could actually see that logically how that does take energy. Smiling doesn't. Like, you know what I mean? I think there is as much as I do have an answer for that. I think that there is still just smile. You can still smile at people. It's not that hard to do.
But can you imagine if you're doing that in New York 24/7? You're like, somebody might be like, what is wrong with this guy? He's just constantly.
In New York, they probably lock you up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a few people who walk around. There's a few people who walk around like that, and it's not a good thing, probably.
Well, I'll counter it though. I went to Texas A&M, and I would say 90% of the people there, because of the tradition, is to say howdy. 90% of the people there at a university of 45,000, probably bigger than that already, say howdy every time you're passing somebody going to class, coming back from class, walking around. So it is doable if you choose, right? So
everything is doable if you choose.
Yeah. I want to jump into something, because you do, as I mentioned when we were starting off the show, you got a lot going on, and you mentioned that personal care and how important it is. How are you managing to do all these things and still be who you are and who you want to be? How do you, what's your secret to life management?
Well, honestly, it's prioritization, looking at what's the most important thing to me, which of course, health is very important. And I'm a bodybuilder. I'm about 11 weeks out from my show right now. So it's just, yep.
I know 11 weeks. That's for bodybuilding timeline. That's just around the corner, ain't it?
Yeah, I'm in hard prep right now. So it's just knowing what's the most important thing right now, today, to do. Don't skip out on it. It's training 6 days a week, taking 1 rest day off, lots of cardio. But but it's honestly just it's prioritizing, knowing the things that are important to me and making sure that I do them every day. Some of them are very easy to do, which, like I mentioned, what's easy to do is also easy not to do. So you can just easily skip it, but you could also easily do it. So it's just knowing what's the most important thing, looking down my list, looking at my schedule. Okay, I got to get this in, got to get this in, got to get this in. And not being too hard on myself if I don't end up getting everything in, because then you start being into this guilt trip thing on the inside, creating friction, and that creates a lack mindset, which, blocks you from manifesting the life that you want. So it's just always moving forward and balancing, prioritizing.
Kind of got it on I was gonna say, on that's kind of on the strategy level, on the tactics level a little bit more, the everyday things. What do you like to do to help you keep on track with that, keep your priorities in check? You to-do list person? What are you?
Yes, I am in a way a to-do list person, but I follow a schedule. I make sure that I set myself up for success the night before. I sit down and I plan out my schedule. What do I need to do the next day? What's the most important, priority wise? And I have something that's called a Sunday planning system that I use, which I learned from Darren Hardy, which you sit down on a Sunday and you've got your three vital functions, your three main goals for the entire quarter or year, and you plan out everything that's going to move the needle forward on a Sunday per category. And then you have something that's called the devil's vortex. Things that distract you, things that you want to do, but don't actually pertain to you achieving one of those three goals. So you try to not prioritize those things, but prioritize the things that are going to actually move you forward. So I always set my three big goals for the year at the beginning or the end of the previous year. And then I break it down into quarters. So on Sunday, I sit down and I plan everything out. And then the night before, I just check my schedule. Okay, what are the three main things that I need to get done on the following day? Make sure I hit all of them. If I have a little bit of extra time for the devil's vortex stuff and it'll satisfy me, I'll squeeze them in, but not before I get down through my list and make sure that I hit everything that I'm supposed to hit. Because, even if I'm tiptoeing forward on my goals, that's better than standing still. If you're standing still, you're moving backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. Devil's Vortex. I hadn't heard that. I love that one. Because, I'm sitting here and my Devil's Vortex has been for the last couple of weeks, the ice on my driveway, because it just drives me crazy. Getting rid of the ice on my driveway ain't going to move me any closer to the goals I got, but
it could prevent you, getting hurt if you walk out on that driveway.
Oh yeah.
And then if you're sick, then you can't take care of everybody else, right?
That's right. That's right.
There we go.
Well, there's devil in them snow is what it is. There's devil in the ice. That's
why I'm in Florida.
Dang it. Choices in life. I tell you, choices in life, man.
Hey, I traded that snow for sand. So
and heat. Let's talk again in July there, young lady, and see who's smiling then.
And the humidity.
Your hair be like frizz.
No, my hair gets lustrous and beautiful. I dry up in the north, you guys. I dry up like a raisin.
Okay. I guess you ain't coming up here to visit then. All right.
No, I will, but maybe not in the dry time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like all the time, unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been great. So, man, I got a big, I learned today, that Camden threw out there, Mr. coming in from the side flank attack with a drop in the history of Europe and the Protestants and the Catholics. What an interesting thing that I never thought of, but looking back on it and having visited and done a lot in a lot of those countries, see a lot of truth to that. Personally, not just in looking up the data, but wow, that's a interesting dynamic that happened many years ago. And I think there's a culture lesson for you kids, in your business and in your life and in where you live, of what, if you're not careful, what the culture could be like and be created. So thanks for sharing that, Camden. And what did you learn, Cam?
Yana, you said this, and I don't know, I must have heard it at some point because it's one of those, it's like it's too simple to, maybe you just coined it. Maybe it's a Yana-ism, but it was easy to do also means it's easy not to do. And I love that because far too often we have that long list of easy things and you just keep pushing them off because it's like, I only need 15 minutes to knock out all this stuff. So you just keep pushing it. And that's, so I love that phrase, and hopefully it'll help me to not push away some of those easy things as often.
No, and I can't take credit. That's totally a Darrenism, my mentor.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah. He taught me a lot. But what I learned today is that just the dynamic between you and your dad and how much that impacted you. Like, I love that. You know, he impacted you as a coach because he was teaching you. He impacted you as a father. And by the way, Otis, thank you for your service. You know, I understand that there was obviously that little bit of time of absence where you weren't in his life, but I mean, look at the impact that you have created. So that's just amazing to me how much impact parents have on their children, whether they're coaching them or teaching them, loving them. That just blows my mind. I love it.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty amazing, and I'm a pretty proud papa, and I know Miss Suzanne's pretty proud of of what the kids have become. You know, I used to tell them that, hey, all we ever want from you for you is for you to be happy and a contributor to society, and that's it. And if you can do that, if you can put that on your kids, that's an amazing thing. They're happy and they're contributing to society in some form or fashion. That's, yeah. So, whoo, man, we did some deep stuff today. Yana, thank you for that. Thank you for your time. Before I get into what did you, or how do people get in touch with you? What's next? That's what I want to know, is what's next. And then we'll come back to how do people get in touch with you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you for asking. What's next is I'm going to be getting ready to launch my own podcast, which is going to be talking about my coaching program on the biblical manifestation and all the godly principles, leadership, things like that. That's honestly what's next. And I'm also writing a book that I'm hoping to get done by the end of this year and get that published and out there, which will also be kind of like a companion to my program, but would really expand on it because I feel like it's going to be a lot easier to get a hold of my book than it is to get on a spot on a coaching call with me. So, you know, I'm all about impact, and podcasts is going to be available for everybody, which I love that. And I'd love for people to learn and, you know, always be a leader by example.
How do people follow you, get in touch with you, stay up to date on what's next?
Yeah, probably the best would be my Instagram, which is YaSaranchuk, Yasaranchuk. Short. Ya actually means I in Russian. So, you know, YaSara.
There you go.
Ah,
And that's probably going to be the best way. I'm pretty active on my social media, and you know, I stay up to date on my messages. So if anybody wants to reach out or get any kind of updates, it'll be on there.
thank you again for your time, and man, the deep thoughts that you helped lead us to today. This has been great. Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Yana Saranchuk, for joining us today, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotishow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.